Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Pro Football Historian channel. I'm your host, Flynn Gibbon. Today, we're going to discuss the Carolina Panthers and go over their offseason, what they could be doing, and go over the regular season. Obviously, a 5-12 disappointing season. This was a team that some people thought might surprise some, the NFL world and maybe even be a playoff team. It did not turn out to be that way. Finishing 5-12. They've had two offensive coordinators in this year, and it started off pretty good. He had a win against the Jets, a game where they dominated the first half, but they let the Jets back in. Ultimately, a revenge game for Darnold, and he played okay. They ran the ball well. Defensively, at the beginning of the year, they looked pretty good. Actually, most of the year, they looked pretty good. The offense, though, I would say by week 6, it just teams figured them out. It was too simple. And then they had the quarterback issues for the rest of the year. So then they had an upset win against the Saints. It was 26-7. For this game, they completely controlled this game, dominated the game. Winston in the passing game couldn't do much. 2 interceptions. Couldn't run the ball at all. And Darnold did have an interception, but for the most part, he did fairly well. And Panthers couldn't do a lot offensively, but they did way more than what the Saints could. And they pulled off this victory. And they went to week 3 against Houston. This is Thursday Night Football. And this was against Davis Mills. Darnold's stats look better than they probably were. 300 yards with no touchdowns. And you could see it was a sign where this offense wasn't performing very well. They still came out with the victory, but as you can see coming up, or what happened to the Panthers this year, this game they played Dallas. First half was a close game, but the third quarter went completely Dallas's way. I think there was an interception or so, some turnovers. Darnold 2 interceptions. Yeah, another 300-yard game. So a little surprising you looking back. Darnold was throwing for a lot of yards early in the year. And Prescott, 4 touchdowns, and then they ran the ball extremely well. And the Panthers didn't really, up to this point, show a sign they couldn't stop the run. In this game, there's 2 good running backs. Did what they could, did what they wanted to almost. And that resulted in the Cowboys winning, even with I don't know if you want to call it garbage time points, but ultimately with points that didn't matter too much in the grand scheme of things. Like there was a chance for if they could stop Dallas at the last drive, which they really couldn't. Then they played the Eagles. This is a game where they controlled and dominated the game. They just had some terrible mistakes. I think they had like a blocked punt to go for a touchdown. I'm sure, but maybe just gave him a short field. I think gave him a short field, and then this was the Hurts run probably. But and then just they did like 6 points. The defense did whatever they wanted to pretty much. Darnold threw a couple interceptions. Remember, threw 3. One to Slay. I'm pretty sure if not 2. Let's look at the interceptions really quick. 2 to Slay. 1 to Steven Nelson. The offense and special team blew this game. The defense for the Panthers was really good, and now they're 3-2. And then this is when the season just, it started to take a nosedive after this overtime loss to the Vikings. A game where they actually came back, scoring a touchdown very late, 42 seconds. They got the 2-point conversion to tie it, and for the most part, they were down this entire game, other than early first quarter and early second. Kirk Cousins played pretty well. This is where the defense showed some lack again in stopping the run. Couldn't stop the passes. Cousins tearing them up. I know Prescott had 4 touchdowns, but at least he didn't throw for many yards. Kirk Cousins did. Another reception for Darnold. He fumbled also. And they didn't have McCaffrey. This is when they didn't have McCaffrey, which also hurt their offense. And they couldn't really run the ball. At least they were competitive this game. And then it just got ugly. They played the Giants. Um, couldn't do anything. Bench Darnold in the game. Darnold threw an interception. But PJ Walker looked even worse. And this is was point of the season where Darnold was probably playing with an injury. He fought through it. They then played the Atlanta Falcons. They actually came out with this victory, which I don't think was too surprising at the time. You still thought the Panthers maybe were good, and just had some bad losses there. And there was a lot of field goals. Offensively again, they couldn't do a lot. Darnold their touchdown only 129 yards. PJ Walker threw a pass. Also ran it once. And they ran the ball okay. And Matt Ryan, 2 interceptions. Did not have one of the better games. And the Panthers come out of the bin, and they didn't get much more. They only got one more win after this, which would come surprisingly against the Cardinals of all teams. So now they play the Patriots again. This is the team. If you're gonna have a scheme issue, or New England's gonna take advantage of that, and just kind of like the Giants, very similar, philosophy and defense. They kind of knew what kind of routes they like to run and type of plays and concepts. And they shut down the Panthers' offense. Darnold 3 interceptions. I think he had a pick 6 in this game. I can go up and look. J.C. Jackson, I thought it was him. 88-yard touchdown. That really changed the game. They were in the game. And ultimately, their offense turned it over. Defensively, they didn't play too bad. They just were on the field a lot. And, Mac Jones didn't do a lot either. But they had some. They tried to run the ball, and they wasn't great at it. But, for the most part, they did what they needed to, and ultimately came out with a victory. And this is when the Panthers often looked like the worst in football. Arguably, the Giants or the Jags were in the conversation, but they had a Cam Newton signing this week, and it sparked the team. It seemed didn't play a lot. PJ Walker started, ran the ball pretty well. They had McCaffrey for this game, and with no Kyler Murray, the Cardinals surprisingly get the second loss of the year, and wasn't even close. Panthers dominated this game all around. And then they went to play the Washington football team, a game where they kind of competed. I think they jumped out. Well, they jumped out, but it was tied at half. Ultimately, couldn't do much. And the weird thing is, a lot of these games you'll see with Cam Newton, they start pretty good first drive, and then nothing happens. I think they scored a touchdown on the first drive, and they get a rush later in the middle of the second, but they didn't do much after that. The McCaffrey pass later in the game for a touchdown. I just don't know. Like, they didn't really try to run the ball too much. They gave it Cam Newton more, as much as they're starting running back. They're paying a lot of money, so a little odd to see that. I don't think Cam Newton played bad. Probably one of his best games of the year, but they just couldn't stop Heineke in the Washington offense. And the defense is one of the worst games, not point wise, but if you're gonna be a defensive team, you need to play better in those kind of games against those teams. This again was close halftime, but not even that close. It was 10-21 at a point in the half. But Cam Newton gets benched. I'm not sure if he had pick 6. I'm gonna look. Dolphins had a block punt in this game, and There was no pick six, but it was a couple bad interceptions of really low passer rating. This could possibly be the lowest of the entire year for any quarterback. Not sure if that's the case, but he's definitely in the conversation. It's Cam Newton's worst game passer rating wise probably in his career. And the Dolphins didn't run the ball great, but they're not. That was not their type of team. But two is high completion percentage, and Dolphins dominated this game. Going on to the next game, they had a bye week, a late bye week. Then they played the Atlanta Falcons. Team obviously beat already, but in this game they lost. There was a touchdown late from PJ Walker. After again they kind of pulled Cam Newton at one point. They did have a rushing touchdown for Cam Newton. I wouldn't say it was that awful of a game for Cam Newton. They're trying to create a spark, and the rest of the year they just couldn't flip flop quarterbacks, trying to figure this out. And in this game, defensively, I thought they played okay, stopped the run pretty well. Atlanta was on the field a lot this game, could run the ball, and Matt Ryan took care of the ball, and that's ultimately why they won. And they played the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, the Bills are a way better team. Again, Panthers started pretty well. They scored on them probably their second drive of the game, making it, eight the would have been four. Actually, sorry, this is the very end of the half. The Panthers, this is the first game where Camden couldn't lead them down the field, but they got 8. They went for 2 for some reason, a little questionable at the time, but ultimately tried to go for 2 again, I believe, and just run failed. They just couldn't do it. If you look at the stats, Josh Allen did pretty well. He gets sacked a couple times, did throw an interception, did have a fumble. Cam Newton fumbled twice. They actually played Cam Newton the entire game. They ran him 15 times for a touchdown. They had some success doing that, but other than the Cam Newton runs, nothing really worked for Carolina. And played Tampa Bay. And this was a somewhat close game the first half or quarter, but ultimately had a Cam Newton interception off a tip pass. And then they went to Darnold. Darnold played okay. I mean, it wasn't great, but it was better than what Cam Newton was giving him. And, you would hope Darnold at this point would have been healthy. Brady didn't have a great game, but, again, they did what they needed to. Defensively, they relied on that. And because the Panthers can't score much, it wasn't really a competitive game. And they played the same, the team they beat, and they lost this game as well. It was a competitive game at half, and in the second half, nothing. Sam Darnold, 1 interception. They played him the whole game. Low yards per attempt, like most of the games this year for the Panthers. Taysom Hill, they didn't have much going, the Saints either, but, it was an 18-10 game, and Saints only need 18 because, again, Panthers couldn't score much. If you look, after that game against the Vikings, they did not score much all year except the Cardinals game. And you argue the Falcons and Washington game, they did score 21. But not much other than that. In the last game of the year, Darnold played. The Panthers went up pretty early. It might have been even the first drive. And then the Bucs dominated the rest of the game. Brady 3 touchdowns, only 8 incompletions. Didn't do amazing in the running game. They did have a long run by Scotty Miller. And for the Panthers, Darnold, I thought played okay. But, other than that, they didn't He didn't really have much and try to really run the ball. They were down most of the game, so I don't blame him. And Darnold ran a lot because he was pressured a lot, sacked twice. And that's ultimately, just doing this quickly, the Panthers' season in a nutshell. Obviously, they're going to have quarterback to resolve since they had to play three for this season. Started three different quarterbacks. Mostly it was Newman and Darnold. But defensively, you have some pieces. You have some pretty good corners in Carolina, and they got some athletic guys like Brian Burns that can, create a pass rush. Hassan Riddick is on this team as well, going second year, you would think, with the Panthers. And Matt Rhule is on the hot seat, so you would think they would really try to resolve this quarterback situation. However, they would probably want to get a veteran, but you might have to draft someone. I don't know if a veteran's going to want to come to Carolina. They do have some nice pieces, great receiver, there's great running back. Offensive line needs a little bit of help. They only have really one good lineman. So they can improve the offensive line. Maybe they can get more going. Obviously, a new offensive coordinator would help since neither were very successful. Joe Brady was a little bit better than Nixon, but either way, let's go to the draft. This is the day on your Jeremiah's mock draft. Panthers are 6 right now. And offensive line is what he thinks will happen. There's a lot of edge rushers and linemen. I don't think they'll go edge. They could, feasibly could they use it, I guess. But I think defensively they're actually in a pretty solid state. And then they have a unique scheme on defense, I think. They're more like a boundary team, no zone defense. But there's going to be soon where they're going to have to pay these receivers, DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. Maybe you can have one more guy in there, a slot receiver, possibly even DJ Moore can play slot. So really, if they can have one receiver, they just signed Ian Thomas today, I think, or yesterday, and so they have a tight end, a solid tight end, not a great tight end, but a solid one. And I don't think they have much holes on defense, honestly. So offensive line and quarterback really priorities for this Panthers team. Otherwise, Matt Rhule won't be a coach much longer for the Panthers, even though I really like him. Uh, Eventually, you have to start winning. And they tried the Sam Darnold thing. Didn't work really. Had some success early on, but after that and after the injury, there was not much. That's all I'm going to talk about today with the Panthers. We'll go to the Bears. I know they don't have a pick, but we'll go with them next week, Monday probably. I am going to the scouting combine, so there might not be videos of that during the 3rd through the 5th, but maybe I'll pre-record them or something. We'll figure that out. Again, enjoy your day. Subscribe if you want. Hope you like the video, and I'll talk to you guys later.